Hey, welcome back to another episode of Projecting Grandeur. I'm your host, Ron Dichter. Thank you so much for tuning in. I want to talk about busy. I was talking to a friend last week, and he kind of says the same thing every time I talk to him. Oh my gosh, I'm so busy. And it kind of makes me laugh when he says it, because I think to myself, who isn't busy? Who isn't, got a million things going on in their life? And when I hear people tell me how busy they are, I try to process in my head why they're telling me this. Like, is it so I feel bad for them? Is it so that they justify that they're doing a lot? Is it that they're venting because they don't know how to handle, the time management in their life, and so they say I'm so busy to justify maybe not getting things done? I don't know. Like, I'm not a psychologist, and I'm sure there's a more medical answer to this question, but let's just talk about the concept of I'm so busy. So unless you are, basically sitting at home doing nothing and you're content with that, odds are you're probably busy, especially if you're trying to juggle a job, starting a business, maybe you have a family, husband, wife, or kids at home. Maybe you have, siblings you're taking care of. Maybe you have parents you're taking care of. Like, we all have a lot going on. And so when someone asks you how you're doing, if you reply with, I'm so busy, like, it's kind of disrespectful. Like, do you not think they're busy? Is it basically saying, everyone else is lazy except for you? And so I would ask you to look inside and say, why are you so busy? My other favorite thing around I'm so busy is I don't have time for that. Okay, is that because you're so busy, or is it because you're ineffective at time management that you don't have time for that? So I can only give you firsthand experience of how I function and how I live my life, and you will never hear me say I'm so busy. It's just not words that I use, because if I'm not busy, I don't even know what I'd be doing with myself. Like, there's always something going on. And, I've learned, for me, to harness things that can help me, manage my time better, can help me understand, what's a priority in my life, what's important, so that I'm spending the time doing things that I want to do. And so the busy time that I have is things that I want to be busy with. So to complain to somebody about that would be ridiculous, because I chose to do that. So for me personally, fitness, health is absolutely crucial for me to be able to function, both physically, but also mentally, and frankly, structurally. When I think about what happens in my life, like, I have to work out every day. Like, I take almost no days off, and I know that, probably scientifically that's not the best thing, but, for me, a day off is like a straight cardio day, or kind of a something that's not basically heavy weight training. And as I get older, I try to really be regimented and diligent about my workouts, because they're just so important in my life. And so starting out, I always start my day with a workout, like, always. I mean, again, I may miss 1 or 2 days a quarter at most, but generally speaking, I work out every single day. And I try to have, the first thing in the morning, right when I wake up, is I go work out. So within wake up to in the gym, and I have a home gym when I'm home. When I'm traveling, I typically work out at the hotel gym. So, I'm not having to go far. And for those of you that have to commute to a gym, obviously you have to factor that time in. But my goal is to go from wake up to working out within 15 minutes. And I know there's people that say you have to have your routine, and I don't know what they all do in the morning, but that's not what I do. I get up, I go downstairs, I brush my teeth, I put on my gym clothes, I grab a water, I have some greens, occasionally some beet juice, and then I go for it. And I work out for about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes every single day. And my day is just, the tone is set from that. And I do it really early. So my goal is to be productive by 7 a.m., which means I need to have my workout in, shower, everything else before 7 a.m. And for me to do that, I get up at 4 in the morning. And I get up at 4, I'm in the gym by 4:15. I work out until about 5:30ish, call it. And then, go have a smoothie, take a shower, and I'm pretty much ready to go by 6:30 to 7 every single day. So that's for me. That's how I use my time effectively from a workout standpoint. Now, once I get that done, the rest of the day is mine to conquer. The other thing that I do is I schedule everything. Like everything. I put literally everything on a schedule from 7 a.m. on to make sure that the things that I want to accomplish are on my calendar and that there isn't anything that gets in the way or preventing me from doing it. And so, like, as I think about the people, we'll go back to my friend example who tells me he's busy all the time. He has a sales job. He sells, high-end real estate, and he is always talking about, how many showings and calls and follow-ups and all that stuff. And I'm like, well, do you just react to them as they come in, or how do you handle that? And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, like, do you schedule time, like, to call your clients, your prospective clients? Do you schedule time, for follow-ups, like, or how does your day work? And he just says, well, I just, if I can get a showing, I get a showing. If I get a listing, I get a listing. And he just kind of reacts to the moment. And I said, well, what if you put that down on a schedule? And he looks at me like I'm crazy because you can't do that because you don't know when the clients are going to call. And it might be true, but there's still a lot of like busy work that he gets caught up in. And if that were scheduled, at least he has that on the schedule. He has time to do it so that he's not, sitting around waiting for somebody to call. And then all of a sudden he reacts and is like, oh my gosh, I forgot to do my follow-up emails. And so for me, I have to schedule everything. I have to put everything on my calendar, from obvious things like meetings to less obvious things like prospecting, to other things like follow-up emails, to things like, if I'm working on some sort of business plan, I'll carve out time in the day, or if I've got a new strategy I want to implement, I put out, or I block that time off in my calendar. And so for me, being able to control my busy is about controlling my calendar. And I'm really guarded about my calendar. Oftentimes people will send me meeting invites. I will challenge them on if the meeting is actually needed, or if it's something we can hammer out via email or a quick phone call. And what's interesting about COVID is everybody went from in-person meetings, especially if you're in office, to remote work. And what's interesting though is you could pop in somebody's office pre-COVID, have a 2-3 minute conversation about something, and move on. But now with so many people working remote and so many people not in office, what ends up happening is you have to schedule that. And by default, if you're using a meeting planner or a video conference service like a Teams or Zoom or anything, the default is to schedule in 30-minute increments. So what might take 2 or 3 minutes, now all of a sudden there's a 30-minute slot on my calendar for, when sure, you can control it and reduce it down to 15 minutes, but even 15 minutes to have a 3-minute conversation. And then inevitably what ends up happening is, because the time is blocked, people feel obligated to fill it, which is crazy. Like, if I can do something in 2 minutes, I don't need to take 15. So controlling your calendar is part of this I'm so busy, mentality that you can fix, is by controlling that schedule. The other things that I like to do is really, think about what is important in my day. What is it that I'm trying to accomplish? Like, what are the highest level things? And you start ranking your day. Like, okay, if you're in, go back to that sales example, if you're in sales, what's the most important thing, right? Probably signing accounts or signing customers. So that should take priority over everything out there. And what's the second most important thing? Maybe prospecting, finding new customers. And again, it's different for everybody. But when you stack rank the things that you do in a day, it allows you to focus your time on the things that really matter and the things that are going to be important. So at the end of the day, when we're all busy, you'll be able to look at your busy and decide, was this the busy I wanted? Did I feel productive? And then you're going to be less, woe is me, boy who cried wolf, because you're so busy. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Get over it. We're all busy. So control your busy, put things on the calendar. And if you're a workout person, frankly, if you're not a workout person, and no offense, I know there's people who can't work out, but like, start your day with a walk. Just start your day with something physical. I promise you, things will improve. Like, it changes everything. I have a good friend of mine who, shortly after college, we were roommates. And I said to him, because I've been working out at 4 a.m. pretty much since I was like 16 years old. It's just what I do. And I had said to him, I said, why don't you come to the gym with me? And he's like, I can't work out at that time. I said, yeah, you can. He's like, no, I can't. I said, listen, if you come to the gym with me for 3 straight weeks, I promise you, you will do it for life. He's like, no, I won't. I said, okay. So he came to the gym with me for 3 straight weeks. First day, crying like a baby, just, oh, it's so early, woohoo. Then second day, still whining. But by the 5th day, he's like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good. And by the end of the 3rd week, like, he's practically waking me up. And to this day, 30 years later, this guy still works out every morning, every single day, because he took the time to create that habit. So anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here. My point for the day is I'm so busy. Control your calendar, control what's important to you, control what matters, and most importantly, start that day with a workout. I'm Ron Dichter. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for commenting, liking, and listen, I'm putting this out there. I have nothing, there's no ulterior motive, there's no, nothing I want from this. I just want to give what I have been so fortunate to learn in my 50 years of life, and I want to pay it forward. So take a moment and share this with somebody, because we are going to get the message out there, and we're going to change the world and make it a better place by just being better people. Have a great day.